Hi everyone, and we are back with this hangout on the process of creation. We're doing a retake because last week I had some technical difficulties which caused the whole hangout to stop, unfortunately. But it gave us a nice opportunity to, start the discussion up again and maybe look at some other points that we didn't consider last time. So basically, the process of creation um, is a hangout that, I mean, it's a topic that I've wanted to do a hangout about because it's something that I've been looking at for myself personally lately, in terms of, what does it mean to really create yourself? When you've been walking a process of self-change, um, something I've noticed with myself is that I would have a tendency to look at the problem a lot more than looking at the solutions. For instance, I would focus a lot on mind patterns that came up, like, oh, okay, here I go judging myself again, or here I go, um, thinking these thoughts again, and then I would focus on basically correcting the problem, but I never really realized that I could just as well focus on the solution, which is, instead of going into, oh my God, here we go again, actually rather be like, okay, this is who I am and this is my potential, and let me now live the solution. So that's why I wanted to have this hangout and open up the topic. So with me are Thormod and Yogan again. Thank you guys for joining in with the hangout once again.
Sure, no problem.
So, let's open up this topic and open it up so that people out there can also kind of understand what we're talking about and what it means to create yourself, what it means to go from problem to living the solution. So, Yogan, do you maybe want to open up, what the process of creation means to you?
So for me, creation is taking something that, well, one example of it, not all examples, but one example is taking something that I would like to change about myself. And creation is that process of actually changing it. So for me, like looking over the years that I've been, let's say, actively working on changing myself, it's been about like 7 years now. That over the years, that one thing I've learned for sure is that it takes time to change something. That it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of asking a lot of questions, like reflecting to myself, asking myself questions about the history of why something is here, about similar moments I've lived this thing, or the memories involved, and really finding out, let's say, the details of it, which includes what thoughts I've been thinking about that I see are problematic for me, what's causing a disruption to life, or what emotions that are problematic are causing disruption to life, or behaviors that I'm doing which also causes this disruption in my life. So really going into the absolute detail as possible, and all those moments that are involved. And so the process of creation is something that takes a lot of time, a lot of attention, a lot of detail, and you could say it requires patience as well, and to be forgiving to yourself, and to have that kindness to yourself, to be able to support yourself through the tough times, the difficult times, and then also the will to push on, to move forward, and to expand and learn and see what else you can do.
Cool, that's nice input. Tormod, do you want to share your perspective or experience with the process of creation that you've walked for yourself so far?
Yes. I have, what shall I say? When I've been walking for the last 4 or 5 approximately years, been walking my Desteni I process, I started out and living this schizophrenic design of myself, having this schizophrenic diagnosis and living this schizophrenic life like it's supposed to be according to culture and so on. And then coming to Desteni I process, where I learned slowly but surely, I learned tools to use, because I then at that point I was living like I was having this all sorts of mind and energy possessions within me. They were like deep and they were like heavy and hard, and I had addictions. I had all sorts of different struggles in my life. My life was really hellish, to put it in these terms. And so to go from that point of dismay or whatever negative quotation can I put at it, from going from that point in my life and then walking process, really picking myself apart as of using the tools that Desteni I process provided me with and that I learned to use on my own, walking and sort of first deconstructing myself, seeing myself as the system that I was, seeing myself as a system that I've been living, stop projecting blame at the external capitalism, whatever system, but looking at myself and my mind and that complicated, complex, deep system of myself that is not simple at all, and it's very complicated and it's very physical, you could say. So from going that process of picking myself apart like a big piece of puzzle, sort of, and from that on, working my way consistently, working, writing, doing self-forgiveness, self-correction, you know, changing my habits, ending my addictions, stopping the energy slaving in mind, and sort of getting somewhere with my life, and creating a purpose for myself. That is a sort of a pillar or polar or what you call it, sort of a point to stand on as of a being with creating a purpose. And that creating a purpose for me at that time was that I wanted to do something sane for psychiatry and for mental health specifically. And so creating, to me, creation is very vivid or a live term today, because I see that two specific ways. And the first one is that word creation is like almost like a sacred word. We could say that it's like a creation, the creator of the God, the God who created us, and so on and so forth. But we forget to think that this creator God, person, also had an origin. We forget that in the picture. We just leave it up to the religions, and then we push into divide and conquer from there on. But we have gone through perhaps thousands of cycles on this earth, trying to save our asses from billions of cycles of civilizations and existences on this earth. And we have never done this before, because if we had done this before, then we would have utopia, heaven on earth as of today, which we obviously don't. So we have this very cool opportunity today to really do what we can and create a good life for all people, all beings. And to do that takes some new creative power, some new creation, because the old systems, if you call it the matrix or the capitalism or the cabal or the mind or whatever we call it, that old system we have to sort of get over. We have to read it, learn it, understand it, and get over it, and recreate, redesign life, and to be that creators ourselves. Yes.
Yeah, so that would be the more like creation on a global external level in our environment in terms of how to like change the external problems that we see in the world around us. Okay, so before I go any further, I need to really um, say that the Q&A
Yeah.
is open. So anyone out there who would like to participate, please do so. Just leave a question or a comment on our DIP Hangout page, and we will answer it. So, you know, I was saying that you were talking about the external change, but I want to go back a little bit and look at the internal change more, because, for instance, with you, Tormod, you already mentioned that your process of creation has been a lot in relation to your schizophrenia. And for me, I think that you are a really cool example of how you can actually, how you do have the ability to create yourself, and you've walked like this really cool process already of stabilizing yourself a lot more. So I think that a lot of people can see the process that you've walked because you're living it physically, and you're going out and you're assisting psychiatry, or you're doing things because you see that you can assist other people because of the process that you've walked. But at the same time, you probably also have a lot of moments still in your life where you are still faced with the same patterns that come up, like certain thinking patterns or emotional patterns that still come up. So it's not like you've completely changed yourself entirely, but it's like you're still in that process of creation, which is like a constant, continuous movement. So even though you've already changed a lot, you're still in that process of self-creation. And that's just something that I wanted to bring up in this hangout, is that the process of self-creation, or the process of creation, it doesn't really have that set end goal or a set end product that you will achieve. It's like a constant thing. I mean, I'm still, I know that I change a lot of things about myself. A lot of intense emotional patterns and intense thinking patterns that I used to go into, of like extreme insecurity, extreme anxiety in relation to people, in relation to doing anything, outside of my little bubble at home. And I know that I changed those patterns in a big way, and that it's also visible. But at the same time, they still come up. A lot of those patterns still come up, but maybe in a different way, or a little bit less. But they're still there for me to look at it, and for me to investigate. How can I change it? How can I transform it? So it's like this process of creation is this continuous movement of just investigating and looking at it, and changing it. And so, yeah, for instance, this concept of creation to me is like a new step in that process of self-change. A new step where you go from self-investigation, like investigating the problems that you're facing, to actually asking yourself, okay, now that I've stabilized most of my patterns, now that I've stabilized most of my emotions and my thought patterns, how can I take it to the next level, and how can I start looking at, okay, who am I? Who do I want to be? Or who am I? What do I want to create? How can I transform this problem that I now understand and that I've now been able to stabilize for the most part? How can I take that and transform it into what I want to create, into my footprint in this world, and in this existence? What kind of signature do I want to live in this reality? And I think that that's the most fascinating process and step to open up. Is there any perspective that you guys might want to add to that?
Yeah, I wanted to emphasize the point you mentioned of the endpoint, and to put it into my words, I find the word expectations is a great word to help identify that. When a person has an expectation about being a certain way, or having changed certain things in a certain time schedule, or have the expectation that, for example, you spent X amount of years in something and you expected that it would have changed already, or would have at least reached a certain level, that that's just an expectation, and of course that's not the reality of the situation. And so that of course causes problems when you have that misalignment, when within what you want to have happened already and it hasn't happened yet. And that leads all sorts of different consequences and problems, where you can even sabotage the process you're trying to walk to change, where then at that point you may then want to give up or stop, or not want to find a way, because you're holding on to the expectation there. And that's exactly what I'm saying when I say the endpoint, because when we have that endpoint in set, even another thing that could happen is that you may actually reach your expectation or your endpoint, but then at that point you're then, okay, well, now what? And you sort of, the whole process, like you said, process of creation, where creation is maybe something like breathing, where it's just simply always here, where you're always creating. It's always just a part of who you are. So that's something that is something that's here. That's how creation actually works, and seeing that, recognizing that, actually empowers us to take reins of creation as a responsibility, as simply part of who we are.
I can add to that with my perspective on what's been said here. It's relating to definitely, yes, Kim. I do go through quite a load of challenges to this day, as of basic components, as of thoughts, as of emotions. Yes. And just like you, Jürgen says, we close the circle, sort of. We reach the 0 point, the point of needle, or the heart of the matter, or back to self, sort of. And you reach that point, and you see that, okay, here I'm back at where I was for like a month ago, or half a year ago, or 5 years ago. And you see that, okay, here's the same pattern again. And you see that maybe it's not repeating that much anymore, but you can see that it still repeats in itself, and you still have to do like the overlapping all the time on that spiral or the circle of whether you have recreated yourself as a being from walking with the tools of self-forgiveness and self-honesty and self-correction and working with oneself and living that change. I mean, that is the ultimate key to, I think, is to be physically say that, yes, now I can live this change as of my praxis, as of my shopping groceries, as of my talking to my parents, as of my talking to anybody, as of what I say, as of how I act, as of how I drive, as of how I walk, whatever I do in my life, or whatever I create in that moment. And that's where I think the real magic is where we interact with others and we talk to others and we create metaphysically or physically as we go along and speak and act and communicate. And from that point, to be grounded in one's purpose, in one's physicality, the practicality of it all, or to see the solutions in it. And yes, I can say that I have chosen, or sort of chosen the psychiatry, mental health to be my thing, sort of. I've chosen it to be sort of my thing, and what we call there's this new hot potato in psychiatry that we call recovery. And it is an ongoing process. Again, it's like a circle closing itself on a spiral way, sort of. And recovery, they say that in recovery, it's an ongoing process. It's like we push and we create ourselves and we recover, but there's no like end hallelujah goal sort of. Like, it's not like this is supreme master whatever being that we can say that now I've finished, now I can just go sleep on the beach somewhere. That is not how it's how it is. I mean, it's an ongoing process, definitely, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also, in relation to psychiatry, how I see it, from my perspective, is that when you have people like you, Tormod, who have a very unique mind, like who you are inside of yourself, and how that then is expressed externally, it's different, it's unique, and with psychiatry, the way I see it is that often there is a tendency to try and normalize people, to kind of go like, oh, this person's different, or they're behaving differently, and to go like, oh, we need to make them normal again, where recovery means to somehow make the person fit in to society, or make the person behave like other people would normally behave, like the norm.
Yeah.
But actually, if I take a step back from that and I look at this unique process that you are walking, Tormod, is that actually it's like your process of creation would be to take that uniqueness of your expression of who you are inside of yourself and kind of ask yourself, okay, I may not be like everyone else, or I may not express myself like everyone else, but that doesn't mean that I'm wrong. It's like taking what you do have and making the best of it, and like using in a way the problem to create the solution, which won't be like anyone else's solution, because it will be your unique creation. And I think it's like that for every person, that we all have our own unique point of creation. We can't compare ourselves to anyone else. There is no norm and there is no normal. I think that the only standards that we should use when it comes to creating anything, creating ourselves and walking the process of creation, is just, asking ourselves basic questions like, is what I'm doing or how I'm expressing myself or how I'm experiencing myself, is it what is best for myself and everyone around me? And if it's not, then you simply change it to an expression that is best. You don't have to compare yourself to other people. It doesn't mean you have to become normal. Your expression can still be unique, and individual, while at the same time being supportive, being, caring, nurturing to yourself and your environment, because those are the principles that actually matter. So basically, yeah. So that's a really cool point that I wanted to express when it comes to the process of creation, because I think that a lot of people, myself included, tend to compare ourselves to other people, and kind of within that comparison we tend to kill individuality and expression and diversity, and we tend to make things boring and dull, and we tend to suppress our own expression, our own uniqueness. And Tormod, like you especially, I mean, you're kind of an example of that uniqueness for me.
Thanks. Wow. Yeah, and I think that I was looking at, this is the second take of this show, and I was looking at the first show we did that got interrupted because we lost contact over the World Wide Web. And I looked at myself and I thought like, gosh, I talk so fast. My mouth goes like, blah, 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 blah. I talk so fast. And I was like totally, I felt guilt. I felt, I felt emotional because I was talking so fast. And so today I made myself a cup of tea instead of coffee because I want to slow down and sort of bring that little essence of slowing down to myself and try to slow down and to be more calm within myself, and then to really like to live words, to embody the word calm, for instance. Take the word calm, C-A-L-M, and live it. See it in front of you. Experience it. Play with it. Let it play with you, sort of, and walk around it. See these letters, calm, and live words or other words, stability or whatever word you that is relevant to you and your process. That is so cool, and that is very much a creation process, because as I play with this word calm or this word stabilizing, for instance, it's not the word that changes. The word is still the same. This me who changes because I play with it, I take it on, I experience it, and so on and so forth. So and that is a very unique to me, to my idea of reality. That specific process of taking words and living these words is a very cool thing to witness and to see, because I see that when we live words, we sort of make ourselves more, what shall I say, we give sanity to ourselves. We give ourselves sanity, and we need sanity today. And we also need lunatics and maniacs and craziness, yes, but we also need moments of sanity, of clarity, of prosperity, and to have a purpose, to slow down, to breathe, be with the physical, to be alive, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the process of living words, to be honest with me personally, it's been kind of a struggle, because I didn't really see how to do it or how to start, or because it's so unfamiliar to me. Also because I've never been very intimate with myself. Like, I feel like you need a certain intimacy with yourself to kind of make that decision to live a word, to kind of explore who you are within a word. So, that's why for me it's been a little bit challenging to walk that process, but it's, something that I have considered in terms of a solution for me is to, instead of going, oh, this is so difficult for me, I can't do this, or like setting up a trap for myself to basically give up on it or go into fear of failing and stuff like that, maybe I thought, okay, maybe I should just look at what words am I already living? How am I already living words? What have I already been able to transform within myself? And that's where I could see that, for instance, I'm already living the word discipline, simply within simple acts of whenever I see myself going into energies of laziness or postponement, to really just make a decision to pick myself up and do what I need to do and just be stable in my physical actions. And that's something I never used to do. Like, I always used to give in to laziness and postponement and things like that. And that's how I can see that I'm already living that word, because I'm physically moving myself out of those energies. So that's been a solution for me in terms of looking at what have I already created, and within that kind of developing an appreciation for myself.
I wanted to continue on this topic of living words, and for me, something that I have been applying recently as part of this process of living words, and like you were saying, to already see what words I already am living, is the action of describing myself in words. So, for example, if I look at something I do or something I like or something about myself, and I just describe it into words, and I just write it out, simply doing that. It's just such a simple thing, but just really just describing and putting into words, and then it's like I have the words to actually describe who I am to myself, and even potentially to someone else. And that's even an important process within talking to someone and explaining who you are, or even just showing or sharing who you are, is to even have the words there ready within you, having described it for yourself, and you can even use words for yourself. And if you're able to describe yourself in words for yourself, then you're able to describe it for another person. And it, may not be like in those exact words you use to describe it, but just even to like know yourself within words. They're ready that already will communicate or translate whenever you speak to someone or whenever you share yourself. And yeah, and that's what I wanted to share, is that thing that I've seen has been really helpful for me. And it's not only just for, let's say, the positive aspects, like words we already can live, but also within the, let's say, negative too, where it is with our challenges or difficulties, describing your challenge, describing your difficulty, putting into words is actually also brings clarity, and actually brings about the next step in how you're going to work on that, or what you're going to do about that.
I would like to say that we're looking at the Desteni I process that I've been working, that I can only speak for myself. I mean, for me to be able to stand straight and to stand and to be sincere with myself, to be honest with myself, and say that I have lived this. This was a part of me. That I have gotten over it on this and that way, and work with that, and become clean with it, and do it over with it. And from there on, I can be like this, because you have to be a little insane or a little bit lunatic to want to actually go about and save this existence, and to do things, and to really, yeah, and so to really see the whole picture, the wholeness, the whole holistical sort of, not just to think that everything is in my heart, or everything is in my brain, or everything is somewhere in the mind. Everything is in the mind. Everything is in the Bible. Everything is on the computer. Everything is on YouTube. Because it is a complex, multiple picture of lots of dimensions and lots of perspectives and process, you could say, with how we have come to life on this planet, and we have to. It is multiple and diverse, and we can point fingers and do that stuff, but it comes down to what we see, what we do with ourselves. If we really want to dissolve ourselves and pick ourselves apart and make ourselves patch together again, to make this path of creation and this path of living and breathing and being human beings on this earth easier for other people. I mean, that is something I find really one of the pillars of what I've taught myself over the years, is that we have to make this process of saving existence easier for other people, because yeah, not everybody is willing to take on that sort of amount of data and work and strive and sort of, and I'm sort of lost here, but I'm just trying to babble a little. But about intimacy, about the word intimacy. I mean, I've been living with schizophrenia since before I was born. When schizophrenia to me is created within the mother's womb. You can read all about that at ecraft.com. Google search for schizophrenia at ecraft.com. From that experience of having lots of internal conversations, voices in the head, all sorts of friction, pain going on in the body, within my inside, in my mind, I learned to sort of look inside myself and to learn myself to what is it called, introvert, to be an introvert sort of, and it's a precious gift to have, to be able to see inside yourself and see all these dimensions and pictures and imaginations and dimensions from intimacy, from into me I see, intimacy, into me I see, and I mean, if you Google intimacy today, I'm sure you find lots of toilet stuff, to put it that way, lots of porn stuff, because this world, because of how we ended up, and creation is an ongoing process. For me, as it is for almost, I guess for most people, I guess that creation is for all people on this earth an ongoing process. I mean, no matter what your pop status is, how many Golden Globes, how many Oscars you have won, how many European national championships of football or volleyball you have won. We have all got a long process to walk here before we can say that, okay, we can create a new sort of system, a new where life is treated equally, where all have a good life for all, and that must be one of the criteria for this creation.
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, I think that that's basically what the driving force is behind wanting to create or wanting to change yourself in the first place, is because deep down inside of yourself, you know that how you're existing or how you've been existing and how this whole planet exists is not what is best for everyone. So it's like there's just this driving force inside of yourself that wants to express itself, and that driving force is life itself, is just life itself wanting to create what's best for itself, inside as well as out. So that's a really cool point. But I just want to go back a little bit to what Yogan said, because I wanted to also expand on that a little bit, which is the point of being able to describe yourself to yourself and other people. I think that's also something I've been looking at, because it's a very grounding point to be able to describe who you are to yourself, because it already kind of calms down a lot of your thoughts that you might have about yourself. For instance, thoughts wherein you go like, oh, I'm like there's something wrong with me, or I'm not good enough, things like that. I mean, when you're able to describe where you're at in your process or where you're at in your life, who you are to yourself, then you're also able to kind of say to all those thoughts in your mind, look, no matter what you're telling me, or no matter what I'm telling myself in my mind, I know what the reality is of myself. Once you know, or once you can see the reality, which is the facts, then you're able to cut out all of the beliefs, all of the ideas that go on in the mind that you might have about yourself. But it's also a very challenging point to, and I'm sure that you've also experienced that, Yogan, is that it's very challenging and it can be difficult to do that, to really sit down with yourself and look at, okay, who am I really? Because it's almost like you have to step out of your entire mind for a moment, what's going on internally, which is always, thoughts coming up and experiences and, feelings and emotions and reactions and things like that. So if you're really gonna have an honest look at who you really are in reality, then you have to kind of step out of all of that and be able to look at yourself through different eyes, through the real eyes, so to speak. So is that something you can recognize yourself in?
Yeah, I would say that everyone who's been walking this process for years, that they can relate to that.
So I'm just wondering, like, how have you experienced it so far? Because you brought up this point of, being able to describe yourself to yourself. How have you gone about that? Like, are there any tips or, perspectives that you're able to share with people watching and with us, that might support us to be able to do that for ourselves?
So how the original point came about a few days ago was someone was asking me a really basic question about why I think it was why I found something enjoyable. And from there, I started to describing it, and I started to bring up my relationship to, well, in this case, it was dancing. So I started describing my relationship to dancing. And so within describing that, then all these different words, phrases, relationships to it came through. And within that, I saw things which before I didn't really see. Things that, for example, like enjoying to play with the rhythm, to make like a surprise out of it. And with having those words, then I sort of helped me see again how those are things which I just enjoy, which would apply to other situations, like making surprises or playing with something that's already there. And okay, so for that example, having been talking with this person, I realized then right away that this point where I could just bring it back to myself, where within myself personally, I can do it for myself, where I ask myself the question, or where I simply describe my relationship to something. So within that, that something could be anything really, like my relationship to the sky, or my relationship to water, or my relationship to a particular thought, or my relationship to a moment, or whatever the situation may be. I am able to describe my relationship to that thing, whatever it may be, and it's, when you look at it, if you look at it for yourself, it's, of course, it's already here, because all you're doing is describing who you are in relationship to something. And so, if, for example, for me, if I would describe my relationship to math, I would have lots of more positive points and a lot of more fun points. And that's been my relationship, my history to it. And if I describe it to something which makes me nervous or anxious, like talking with people, then I, of course, would have those references. Though, what's cool about this is simply describing and putting into words. When I did that, it's just, in a moment, it just was such a clear example where if I didn't do that, if I didn't describe it into words, then I really wouldn't have access to the memories, to my relationship to those things. And so just that act of describing myself, putting myself into words, that's like a key or a hole, or that's like, I want to say, like, comparing myself, or to really show like how important this is. If you imagine if you're like a child, very young, like 3 years old, you don't really have the words to describe something that's happening to you, like someone like takes your toy away, or someone like hits you, whatever reason, that if you don't have the words, then it just becomes an emotional experience. And for much of my life, I have been able to relate to myself through my memories of things that have happened to me, but not so much within words themselves, to actually describe my relationships, my history, my memories into words. And what I'm seeing now is, by doing that, by putting myself into words, that actually really shows who I am. And it's, I can't say exactly why that is, but that is what I'm seeing, and I'm seeing that as something very pivotal and important to do. And yeah.
Yeah, that would definitely be a very cool first step to take in the process of, investigating yourself and, writing about who you are, where you from there can start opening points up like memories, where do your experiences come from, where do your relationships that you've created with your environment and with yourself come from, and from there you can start looking at, what is it that I want to change, and how do I want to change it, and how am I going to change it. So we are technically at the end of our hangout. Is there anything that either of you guys would like to add to the conversation?
I will say, to emphasize in the end here, for my part, that what you just said, Kim, about who am I, what do I want to change, what is my purpose, and to do some writing, because we really need to create new fundaments of support for this new world, and find your purpose, find your thing, and whatever it is, and if you know that it's supportive, that it's best for all, and go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So I think that even though this is the end of this hangout, I think that we will have more hangouts on not necessarily this topic, but maybe, you know, an expansion of it, because for myself personally, I know that it's kind of a big and new point that has opened up in my personal process of self-change. And, you know, these hangouts are also kind of a support that I give to myself, where I assist myself in opening points up that I don't yet understand or that I would like to have perspectives on. So I'm very grateful to be able to do that, and to be able to have people on the Hangouts who together with me open up these points. So thanks guys for being there today, and for, you know, for all the discussion. Unfortunately, we didn't have any questions, but, you know, maybe next time. So, bye. See you guys later.
Bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.